Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. Your boy Road Dogg here with none other than the man, the king, Karl Bryan himself. Sir, how are you today, bud?
Hey, Road Dogg, the birthday boy. Turned 45 yesterday, brother. There was a time when that was seriously in doubt, but you made it. So high five, brother. Good
Thank
to have
you.
you here, man.
I would say that the same could be said for you. I'm sure there was probably a time in Australia where a couple of your buddies were like, I just don't know if he's going to make her.
Yeah, there's no question, my man. There is no question. But hey, those days are behind me. Now I'm a very calm, cool, collected man in his mid-40s, what am I, what did you say, mid to late 40s?
Mid to late 40s. That you see that when you go past, like, say, 47, 48, you're really hanging on to the mid part of the mid to late 40s.
Okay, well, I'm hanging on with one arm, man, like the, what's that show with Rocky, is it Cliffhanger, where he's hanging from the rock at the very beginning of the movie? There we go. That's me.
I was thinking of more of a Hans Gruber from Die Hard sort of a situation. And I'm about to let go of the watch, and you're about to have a football.
Unfortunately. There we go. All right, man, let's get into this. What do we got for us?
So first off, let me just go ahead and butter you up a little bit, my friends. You deserve a little bit of kudos here. For those of you who have not seen, annually there is a ranking that is done for the best business coaches to follow. And for 2020, I must have missed the cut somewhere. It's weird. But Mr. Karl Bryan moved up 6 spots from number 12 to number 6. So congratulations, my friend. And then also,
thank you, Road Dogg. Appreciate that, brother.
If that's not enough to swell your head, in a separate poll, you were actually ranked number 7 for the best business coach influencers. So congrats, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. I don't necessarily agree with the rankings and whatnot, but very humbling. So thank you, brother. And whoever and the voters and all that, whatever goes on there, thank you much to them. So anyways, man, what do we got? Let's rock and roll, dude.
All right. I was expecting I want to thank the Academy. I want to thank nothing. All right. All right. So what do we got? We got a whole pile of questions. It's funny how some of these there's so many similar questions that keep coming up, and I just think it is awesome because it just shows that it's a continual problem that we can absolutely help with. So the first question that popped up here for me today was, what is the number one trait of a successful coach? And after those kudos, let's get some of your top-notch advice for that. So what are some traits? One trait.
Okay, number one trait, again, like you said, Road Dogg, this is similar, not exact, but similar kind of question comes through with consistency. The number one, like I would say, look, the trait is the same as it is for a professional football player, baseball player, most definitely, at war and an army. It is the ability, if I say this, so I don't know if this is trait, but the ability to see the entire playing field. Like that's it, right? Your best football players, your best athletes, again, the guy who's going to win the war. The war is won in the tents, not in the front lines, right? The end. I don't think I should say this without saying hunger. Again, I've said this many a times in different podcasts that we've done, that hunger is the number one. If you were to give me the number one trait of a professional athlete, it would definitely be hunger. Why does Serena Williams, she's worth more money than, she would ever be able to spend times 100. Why does she still wake up in the morning and hit basketballs, hit tennis balls, right? It is hunger. Roger Federer, same thing. Michael Jordan in his heyday. My boy Tom Brady, you know how much I love him. Again, he's out there throwing footballs right now. There's no doubt. In fact, I'd also say this. Speaking of seeing the entire playing field, like right now, The NBA is on, depends on when you're listening to this, but the NBA is on break, right? So is the NHL. Well, I guarantee that LeBron James right now is training harder than he ever has, right? And understand that whether the NBA comes back or not is totally in question. So there's an argument that you'd say, well, why the hell would LeBron James be training harder now than ever? Because he knows LeBron James was created by an edge, right? Like he doesn't look to, you see him, he's an unbelievable offensive player, but he's also an unbelievable defensive player, by the way, and that Michael Jordan really broke that plane. People were either offensive or defensive, and Michael Jordan said, no, I'm going to be the best at both, and then he becomes the greatest of all time. Not a coincidence, right? So LeBron James sees an opportunity to get an extra edge. And again, just think of the casino. Ultimately, casinos, Las Vegas was built on edges, right? Not huge gaps, but edges. LeBron James knows that there's a lot of guys sitting around, and what do? They're drinking beer, getting pissed with their buds, enjoying their Lamborghinis, and he knows that when they come back, if they didn't put in the time, he already had an edge before they went on break, and he's got an opportunity to get a greater edge. And again, the season may or may not come back. I never met LeBron James. I would love to. Probably never going to happen. I guarantee that's what he's doing. And look, Kobe was still around. He'd be doing the same. And Michael Jordan, most definitely. An opportunity to see the edge. Think of that. So, by the way, he's seeing the entire playing field, though, right? Like he's like, hang on a minute. If I look at the entire playing field, I see a season taking a break. I think that the NBA will want to come back because there's too much money on the line to do. He's doing his math. And he sees that opportunity by seeing that's how he gets the edge. That's how the casino gets the edge, by seeing the entire playing field. Also, if you introduce me to a professional athlete, I will introduce you to somebody who is shit scared of failure. The end. Okay. I want to encourage you to embrace failure and your fear of it as opposed to the opposite. Again, I think that would be a trait that would absolutely be in line with a successful coach, right? Like you're about to do your event. Like if you're about to do an event and you are not poop scared in that you're like, well, I hope I do a good job and I got a lot of people showing up and am I going to remember my lines? Am I going to remember my examples? Am I going to say my story? And is a tear going to come down my cheek the way that I saw Tony Robbins and he cries. He's told the story over 100,000 times and he still bloody cries when he tells it. Obviously, he doesn't do it for his own good. He does it to impact the person watching. He doesn't care whether you think he's a dickhead or not. For a tear coming down his eye on the same story, he cares about the person who's seeing him for the first time. That's what matters to him. But the bottom line is if you show me a coach who's about to do a live event and isn't nervous as heck, why? Yeah, they want to do a good job, but that's somebody who doesn't want to let the crowd down. And I think that is absolutely critical. But the fear of failure, again, if you show me a professional athlete, I'll also show you a guy from a town where everybody was bigger, everybody was stronger, everybody beat him up at some stage, etc. Right? Like all professional hockey players have hometowns that had guys that were way better than them, right? And then there's stories of those guys and, oh my God, I remember Buddy kicked the crap out of XYZ. I can't believe that guy went on to make $70 million in the NFL or the major leagues or whatever when my buddy kicked the crap out of him as kids. It's just the one guy was scared of failure and just continued. This is why LeBron James is awake, early throwing basketballs around or shooting basketballs, right? So embracing your fear of failure is what I'm trying to get at there. So the number one trait, and so again, I'm giving you a few here, Road Dog, but I think they're all relevant because I think it's difficult to just take one and put it straight to the top. And I would also say this, from an perspective of seeing the entire playing field, which is kind of what I put as number one here, I guess. I would also say this, that the world, you want to think in terms of finding problems, okay? What most people do is they're starting a business and they try to come up with a great idea, right? They try to come up with a great product, okay? I honestly, that is a stupid approach, okay? What you want to do is you want to identify problems, and then a business is a solution to the problem. If you look at it that way, I promise you, I might say that and you're like, oh yeah, that's pretty straightforward. I promise you it's not straightforward because then everybody else will be doing it, and it's very rare, and I'm talking like 5%, maybe even 1% of the time where this is done properly. So again, somebody thinks about growing a business and they try to come up with a great idea. They try to come up with a great product when really you want to find a big problem that a lot of people have. The bigger the solution, the bigger the problem, and the more people that have the problem, the more money and the bigger your company is ultimately going to be able to, the bigger business you're going to be able to build around it. So I would say that problems, just creating a mindset where you're constantly, got spidey senses out looking for problems. And then your mind goes to, well, how do I solve that problem? How do I solve that problem? Like if I'm driving traffic as a business coach, basically the worst converting offers of all time will be improvement. Okay. The best converting campaigns of all time will always be new opportunities. So like an example, so if you're sitting there going, what would a new opportunity be for a business owner where we could drive traffic and effectively be a solution to them? Like a new business plan would be an example of a new opportunity. Everybody's in love with funnels nowadays. Okay, well, a new funnel for business coaches, or a new funnel for plumbers, a new funnel for dentists to get new clients, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. Always be thinking new, a new grant available. Like in-house here, we've had a grant program for over a decade. Well, this pandemic came along. Everybody, grants. Well, we reinvigorated our 10-year-old program on grants because we said to our coaches, look, this is top of mind right now. Go out there and offer grants to business owners. Well, guess what? Actually, I tell you, Terry Levine, one of our top coaches, she's a 7-figure coach. She basically, don't quote me on the numbers here, but very close, I believe. And this is last week that I spoke to her. It was $70,000 to $80,000 of new coaching clients she has done through the grant program. Right, and again, just our in-house grant program that we created from scratch 10 years ago, and then reinvigorated for their coronavirus craziness. What am I getting at there? Like a grant is a new opportunity. That's an example of an offer that a business owner will go for, get you into their office, get them on the phone, as opposed to going to them with improvement. Okay, important. What do I mean by improvement? Like going to a guy who made $100,000 last year, and now you're going to help him make $125,000. That is not going to get his eyebrows in a very competitive environment like the internet. You are not going to do well with that campaign. When you're speaking to business owners, talking about improvement, like I'm going to help you build your business. I'm going to help you get to where you're at, to where you want to go. This kind of language that's based around improvement, it's not going to get you the attention that you're ultimately looking for. Keep your spidey senses out there. When you look at the entire playing field, I want you to be looking for new things that you're trying to create, new events, new business plans, new websites, new social media processes, new funnels, new grants, etc. So I think that that's important. When I see the entire battlefield, I've got to be able to get people's attention, and new and improved opportunities don't do it. So Road Dog, I hope that answers the question. But yeah, the number one trait, I feel, like I said, you introduced me to a professional athlete that crushed it. Like I'm talking the top 5%. They see the playing field better than the others. So that would be up there. So that'd be my answer there, Road Dog. What do you think?
It's funny when you say seeing the entire battlefield. The one person that automatically comes to my mind, besides you, of course, Wayne Gretzky, right?
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, well, because why? Tell me why.
Well, because he didn't just, and he wasn't just sort of guessing. He knew. He was watching. He anticipated the next play. He anticipated where everything was going, and no one had greater vision in the game than Gretz.
That's 100% correct. Yeah, like he retired, he had more assists than anyone else in all time had points, right? So again, that's assists, pretty straightforward, right? That's when you pass the puck and somebody puts it in the net, right? But yeah, he was famous for saying, I don't go where the puck is, I go to where the puck is going. And that's it. He sees the and by the way, did he guess wrong? The answer is absolutely. But because he played the game that way, do you think he got a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better? The answer is yes, to the point where he became the greatest player of all time. And something else that he always saw, what he did is he turned everything into a 2-on-1. Okay? So he had the puck. He wasn't thinking about, how am I going to get around this guy? He identified another player on his team. And in some cases, it's the hack and the guy that was there to protect him. It could hardly handle the puck. And in other cases, it was Yari Curry, a superstar who went on to score almost more goals than anybody else in history because he was the benefactor of his passes. But he turned everything into a 2-on-1. Again, entire playing field. So yeah, love it, brother. There we go, man.
Well, the beauty with Gretz as well was like when you're that good, the fact that remember like you're picking players for whatever it was, it's like, okay, do you have Gretzky for goals or assists? Do you remember that? Like it was just crazy because he was just that good that you could not just pick him as a straight up player. You had to separate his points that way. But to get back on track here, so obviously with coronavirus, everything else happening, dude, mission statements, all that stuff, like throw it out the window, right? Like everyone is like reset, start, do over, here we go. Like what would you write on a mission statement, Karl? Like, do you have any advice on that? Is everyone sort of doing a global reset here?
Yeah. What would I write on a mission? I'd say that not only would I write what would I write on a mission statement, but I'd say that what conceptually what's going to go behind it. And I will tell you, in fact, I got a buddy who went away and he won an award recently with Tony Robbins, and he was one of only 8 or 9 guys on the trip, or maybe it was a little more than that, but it was very small, very intimate group with Tony Robbins at his place in Fiji, right? So they were like, a lot of one-to-one time. And what Tony Robbins said is you need a bigger, and I'm kind of making this up as I'm going, and I can't quite remember, it's a long time ago, but basically he said something to the effect of you got to have a huge vision for yourself, right? So I would say this, you guys have heard me talk about a North Star, right? I would call that a North Star, but I really think that one of the challenges we have with our businesses, both with our clients and ourselves, with our own business coaching companies or our digital marketing companies, what have you, is that they don't have a big enough vision of what they're trying to accomplish, right? So I think that is mission critical. Like, and an example that I've given in the past, like the North Star for Facebook is, does it help us grow? Okay, you look it up, like this is Zuckerberg, this is what drove him for a decade while he was building Facebook in the early days. Like, in other words, if you came to him and you had, well, you never, you wouldn't go straight to him, but like if you wanted to go to Facebook and you wanted to say, look, here's an initiative, there's a program, this is something that I'd like to launch. The first question is, does it help us grow? If the answer to that is yes, they'll take the meeting, discuss it. If the answer to that is no, it's game over, not happening, like you're not getting in there. Or Gary B, the example is, does it get me attention? That is his North Star. That is the big picture for himself. And if it gets him what he calls eyeballs, right, he will do it. If it doesn't get him eyeballs, he doesn't do it. The end, right? So example, or maybe even, let's go, well, what is Microsoft? This is back in 1980 when computers were the size of cars. Basically, their mission statement here, it's off the top of my head, but what is it? A computer on every desk and in every home. A computer on every desk and in every home. This is in the 80s when computers were the size of cars and they were used by companies like NASA, right? So to say that was a big vision and that you'd say it to somebody, they'd be like, well, why in the world would anybody want a computer in their home? Like, what would be the use? Well, again, they went and created things like, you just look at Word. Well, people wanted to be able to create spreadsheets, right? Before you can understand that spreadsheets were, pretty much invented right there, right? So like people want spreadsheets. People want to write letters to one another. So if you go to Word, you'll see, like it's a word processing program that was hugely popular that brought computers into the home. So they put together they had the vision, and they created the programs to get it done. Or Google is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful, right? Like if you really look at Google and what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, I mean, this is it. Kickstarters to help bring, to help bring creative projects to life, right? If you understand Kickstarter, it's a funding platform, right? Where you go to it with your great ideas and then people can buy your stuff before you even create it. And that's exactly what Kickstarter do. Uber, they want to ignite opportunity by setting the world in motion. So if you think of that, igniting opportunity by setting the world in motion. What's an example of that? You're going to find in the future that car ownership is going to go down big time, especially amongst people that are working during the day. Because what you're doing now, because Uber is so quick and it's so accessible and such a great platform, that people are now hailing Ubers they've got their laptop out. They're sitting in the back seat doing work on their laptop while they're getting driven, 15, 20 minutes to their next appointment. They get 20 minutes of work done versus have to park their car, pay for parking, fart around, walk to the car, drive the car, obviously, for the 20, 30 minutes in between appointments where they can't get any work done. Think about how that changes everything. And by the way, that's, something that, and if you're not doing that, guys, you want to be thinking about that in a very real and tangible way. And that's what effectively, that's what Uber to a large degree brought to the world. So I think, personally, and I've written this in many emails, but I want to set the standard for the entire business coaching profession, and I say that, and even as I say it, you might think, oh my God, what an arrogant dick. Or you might be thinking, wow, what a visionary. Don't know. Frankly, it's not that I don't care, but I kind of don't care. That is my vision. That is what I plan to do. Like when you meet me, like I've been at this for close to 2 decades. When you meet me in a decade from now, it's not like I'm suddenly going to see an opportunity and like I'm going to go into real estate and go, oh, wow, I didn't realize how much money was in real estate, right? Like I don't give a rat's you-know-what about money. That's not my goal. That is not my North Star. It's got nothing to do with what I do on a daily basis. What I'm trying to do is impact the world in a very real and tangible way. And this is my mechanism, right? So that's my vision. And quite frankly, it has adjusted over the last, 24 months, and it's probably going to evolve a little bit from there. But I actually, that being said, will it? And when I say it will, it's not like it's going to like change course. It might adjust in a certain way where all of a sudden software is a huge part of what I am now doing. So maybe that will adjust in a little bit of a way where my software is going to be part of setting the standard. But fundamentally, guys, I will be flexible with my approach, but dogmatic in what I want to achieve. So that's just for me on a personal level. Who cares about me? I want to talk about you guys. What is your vision? And I want to challenge you right here, right now, when you're talking about mission statements, create a monster one, right? Like try to knock it out of the park. And remember, Kobe Bryant, ultimately, what did he want? Kobe, the late great Kobe Bryant, by the way, he wanted to be the greatest basketball player of all time. The end. Okay? Well, when you understand that that's what Kobe wanted, and he wanted it from the age of 15 and never deviated once, and in his opinion, by the way, he didn't want to be the greatest basketball player of all time in the minds of others and on Sports Illustrated. He wanted it to be in his own mind. And guess what Kobe Bryant achieved in his own mind? Agree with them, disagree with them, he doesn't give a rat's you-know-what. In his opinion, and it's literally, you can Google this and see it on YouTube, where he said, look, I believe that I was better than Michael Jordan. Right? He said it, and LeBron James and anybody else. So that's what he accomplished. So what do I mean? Why does that matter? Mission statement, North Star, big picture. When you understand what Kobe wanted, it becomes very, very easy to understand what he should do on a daily basis. Like the guys get to practice at 8:30 a.m. Should he get there at 8, 5 minutes, 8:25, or should he get there an hour early, if not 2 hours early? And by the way, when he gets there 2 hours early, should he be moping around and drinking coffee and farting and talking to the staff? Or should he grab a basketball, get on the court, and start doing working on the techniques and what he needs to be working on that individual day? And the answer is obvious, right? When, a guy on his team is shooting free throws, that's a tongue twister. But anyway, so when he's doing it, and let's say that the other guy hit 100, Kobe goes and he hits 90 and misses. Does he start again and get to 100? Does he start again and get to 110? Like the answers become pretty obvious, right? Or by the way, or does he pack up and go home and go, you know what? The guy got 100, I got 90, not bad, good enough. Look, I'm tired. I want to go home. I want to go have some lunch, right? The answer becomes obvious if he's dealing with his wife before the game, right? Does he get in a little piddly, pathetic fight with his wife pre-game, right before they're playing against, whoever the Sacramento Kings or whoever, the top team, the San Antonio, whoever he's playing, the next top team, right? Does he get in a little piddly scrap with his wife, or does he say, that's all right, baby, look, I'll take out the trash, it's all good, I love you, kiss on the cheek, I'll see you at the game, I gotta go? And the answer becomes obvious. Does he hang out on Facebook and social media and start political debates? I don't think so, right? Clearly, the answers are obvious. So when you create that vision for yourself, that huge vision yourself, and totally commit to it, it becomes really easy to make those decisions. So there's a few examples of mission statements, I guess, what I'm doing there, but I really want to press upon those listening. I want you to create a monster vision for yourself. I want you to create a monster vision for your business coaching practice, and I want you to help, very importantly, your business owners that you're coaching. I want you to help them think a lot bigger and really create a massive North Star that will make it super easy for them. Okay, so that's what I'd say to that, man. There's a few examples of mission statements, and hopefully those, making those big pictures happens there, Road Dog. What do you think, man?
Couple things out of that. It's interesting because the vision never changes. The strategy, the tactics inside of how you get there constantly evolve. Right?
That is it. An example, like you're trying to get from New York to LA, okay? You jump in the car. There's going to be detours. There's going to be accidents. There's going to be this. There's going to be that, right? But the destination is locked in, the end. You're prepared to take detours and go around, and you're prepared to do so, but you're locked in on the end goal. And then the bigger the end goal, the further you're going to get. Even if you mess it up royally, the further you're going to get. So that's my answer there. The
other thing I got out of that was you know absolutely nothing about the NBA.
Look, man, I'm 5'6", dude. There's absolutely no point. Apart from, I know about Spud Webb. Spud Webb was my boy. When he retired, I was done. Maybe.
Well, you know what? There it is, right? Like you had a vision, but you also had reality of knowing that you would have no shot at the NBA, and so you followed your other vision, which was hockey, which I'm sure your boy Mikey Hunt would have some opinions on. We have to have him on one of these shows, I swear. Anyways, so you talk about vision. So naturally, the next big thing when it comes to vision is going out and marketing yourself, right? So this ties into a question that was brought up, and like, what would be a good marketing message for a business coach? So and does it tie into vision, or just generally, how do you create and what do you consider to be a good marketing message?
Cool. Okay. Question. What's the question? What is a good marketing message for a business
coach specifically? Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Good question, by the way. Very important question. If you want to get attention, I'd refer to this as, I'd encourage you to think about this two ways: marketing message, but also think of it as a hook. So I'll tell you, when I first got going in coaching, my first promotion, when I was driving traffic, I built membership sites, right? And I was driving traffic to my membership site, and my first hook was how I earned $187,000 in my first 9 months online as a coach. Drove some traffic, did some joint ventures, got a couple hundred people at $100 a month plugged into my membership site. But I built a list of thousands. So I did a follow-up to that. I said, okay, well, it was too early to go to them with the same hook and say, hey, I know you didn't want it last month, but maybe you want it this month. Obviously that wouldn't have gone very well. So what I did is I changed my second hook of the second promotion, because understand that a couple hundred people bought, but there was thousands of people who didn't buy, right? So I followed that up with, the marketing message / hook of how I generated 250 hot new coaching leads in 90 days using Google. So that's what I followed up with that. You'll find that those two hooks both follow the same template, which is very powerful in my opinion. If you work with us now, in fact, if you get my emails, you see this on a regular basis. But basically, we find, like, if you're a business coach with us, we train you on how to find any business owner $100,000 in 45 minutes without spending $1 on marketing or advertising, right? So that, by the way, all three of those messages then follow a consistent template guide. In fact, what's another one that I had about live events? Drop me in any city with $100, and I will fill a local live event within a week and have 2 high-end coaching clients, right? That one's a little bit different, but no doubt you could see how it has, it's of the same foundation. So those are examples of some hooks, but those ones are predominantly going to coaches. The one I'll find any business owner $100,000 in 45 minutes without spending $1 on marketing or advertising. I think that you could be in coaching for the next 300 years. And I would challenge you, if you come up with a better hook than that one / marketing message, I'll high five you and be the first person to buy you a beer. you will battle to do that, because I think that that's really good. So I guess to answer the question, that's it. It's a home run. In fact, ironically, in my own world, so we've got the 3.0 version of my profit acceleration software, the new software coming out, or the third version of it in reasonably short order. We've gone from 2.0 to 2.1 to 3.0 in a matter of months. But what's the so one of the messages that we've got there is that you can find your high-end coaching fees prior to starting with your new high-end coaching clients. Make sure I said that right. So you can find your high-end coaching fees before starting with your new high-end coaching client. So that's an example of a message that we're going to the marketplace with, that you might be able to grab, reverse engineer, adjust, and, create it. And then the other one that I've created, which is, this one's more around authority, but the software itself. So this one is around authority. This isn't so much a marketing message, but it's almost like what I'd call an authority message. But it's got 397 million weighted algorithmic sequences that ultimately create the roadmap that the coach uses with the client, which is, by the way, exactly what it does do. But by the way, and the message on the software would be 397 weighted algorithmic sequences, which, by the way, and I put this on Facebook, and I got some, we might be adjusting that. I guess what I'm doing, Road Dog, here, I am in this right now. Like, you might think that, you just come up with your marketing message and you're there. And that's absolutely not the case. Like, be kind to yourself, right? And this is absolutely a process, and you got to let it, like you said, Road Dog, you got to be dogmatic with the destination, like LA to New York, but be flexible in approach as you're moving along. Like, be very, very careful to fall in love with your marketing message. If you go and create one, and by the way, in your business coaching clients go and create one, they fall in love with it and they just assume that, it's automatically going to work. And this is definitely the one to go with. You've got to be willing to test this stuff. Like, the book, The 4-Hour Workweek, comes to mind. If you read the story of how I can't remember what the original title was going to be, but it was nothing. It was something lifestyle driven, which is really what the book is about. Problem is, most people read the title, 4-Hour Workweek. They forget to read the book, and then they think that they know what the book's actually about, right? And they're not even close, right? Like, if you actually take the time to read the book, it's an amazing book. But on a subconscious level, everybody starts to think, oh, wow, the goal is to work 4 hours a week, right? That's ridiculous. Tim Ferriss isn't working 4 hours a week. Road Dog, you're not working 4 hours a week. I'm not. Nobody is. You're never going to get anywhere. Like, forget it. The end. I don't care how successful you become. Jeff Bezos isn't working 4 hours a week. It's quite the contraire, right? Nobody's going to be working harder. Bill Gates was the same in his day. Steve Jobs was the same, etc. So anyways, 4-Hour Workweek was if you study, like, have a look. If you like the idea of this topic, have a look at how Tim Ferriss went about coming up with the title 4-Hour Workweek, and there might be a nice little educational process in there for you. But he basically drove traffic. He did a survey. He had a list of titles, and one was a clear winner. The end, and it ended up grabbing first place. Of the ones that he put out there, this was the one. He didn't like it. This was not. His plan was not to, that wasn't going to be the title of the book in any way, shape, or form prior to doing a whole heck of a lot of homework. So marketing messages for a coach, but you will struggle to find one better than finding any business owner $100,000 in 45 minutes without spending $1 on marketing or advertising. In fact, Road Dog, I might just finish that with basically your goal. Okay, 2 words if you want to be successful in coaching, there's 2 words that I want you to memorize and think about consistently. Number 1 is curiosity. Okay, if I want to get you on the phone, my goal is to make you curious. The end. Okay, I'm going to find you $100,000 in 45 minutes. I would bet that would make you curious. And you put me in front of Tony Robbins, Richard Branson, Mark Cuban, you name it, any business guru, Warren Buffett, and I said that, they'd raise their eyebrows and say, how do you do that? Right? And maybe they'll think you're full of crap. But again, now you just got to back it up a little bit, right? And how do you back it up? You got a couple templated stories that you can easily spit out that will legitimize it. And Do you have those examples ready? And the answer is absolutely. Do you practice those examples? Absolutely. Do you refine those examples? Absolutely. Right? Again, this is how you get there. But the bottom line, so the first word is curiosity. Okay, that's how I get you on the phone. That's how I get into your office. Now, once I get into your office and I'm trying to sell you coaching, the next word you move to is certainty. So my job is to make sure that you are certain that as we lay out this game plan, maybe it's the 100 grand in 45 minutes or whatever your process is, you've got to make sure that you make them feel certain that you're going to be able to follow through, and that, let's hypothetically say you're charging $2,000 a month, 24 grand a year, that this is going to be an incredible and profitable investment should they undertake it. That's what's critical. So certainty. And by the way, so when you work with us, this is why we created the software. Like, would you feel more comfortable if I pulled out a napkin or a spare, blank piece of paper and went through this process? Or if I had software and I was sitting there punching into my computer all of the different results, and then it populated a roadmap that we could both use to move forward with? Obviously, the software legitimizes at a high level. Well, it all comes back to certainty, right? Increasing the level of certainty that our coaches have with the coaching clients that we sit with. So basically, there's some good, I hope that provides some guidance, Road Dog, but definitely some good marketing messages in there, bud.
Okay, so awesome. But now let's say, okay, you get the client. You and I both know what happens next. You got to motivate them, right?
Yep.
So how do you do that? Because obviously, I always end every episode with progress equals happiness, and we know that that's a fact. So how do you ensure that they keep progressing? How do you properly motivate people? What have you found works?
Okay, so how do we? So we found them 100 grand, and now what you're saying is, like, I'm going to show them that they got to say, "Do you want fries with that?" And then they sell burgers for a living. They're not doing it, and I got to motivate them to bloody well do it. Right? Real simple. I would just start with this, guys. Incentives run the world. In fact, that, again, much like earlier problems and solutions, I kind of gave you those two words. I want you to grab them and really think about them. Incentives run the world. Really think about that, guys. In fact, I was actually talking to Marshall Falk on the weekend. You guys may or may not who that is. He's a very impressive running back for many years in the NFL. I think played for over a decade. He's in the Hall of Fame. Bit of a legend for those that are football fans out there. But anyways, we were actually talking about exactly this and how incentives were the centerpiece of almost everything. So let me give you a really dramatic example. Communist China back in the day, they said you could only have one child per family, right? Because overpopulation and whatnot was a challenge and something they had to combat. That's the solution they came to. Well, here's what they didn't anticipate what ended up happening. People wanted their name to live on, right? Especially the men of the world. Pretty obvious why, right? Well, what ended up happening is that the black market for abortions absolutely took off, and what families were doing is that they were doing they go in and do the ultrasound to work out, do we have a boy or do we have a girl? And horrifically, what was happening is they would abort. Up the stories of aborting up to 4 children. And what were they doing and why were they doing it? Because they wanted a boy, right? So on a dramatic sense, and a horrific one, by the way, but the incentive is to carry the name on, and the incentive, what they're looking for is a boy. And that's the extremes that people were going to basically try get what it is that they wanted, right? So very, again, dramatic example, but if you use that as a bit of a foundation of the lengths that people will go to get, what they're incentivized by, very, very powerful, right? In not one a negative way, but you get it. So here's another example. Like if you have a business that has low talented staff, right? Again, this is an example I've used before, but it's an absolute beauty that you guys need to steal and use. And that's a lot of businesses, right? This is a moving company. This is a trucking company. This is a cleaning company, et cetera, which can be unbelievable companies. But some of the major challenges you have is scale because of the staff that you're coming on. So what you do is you put together, let's say that it's a trucking company, okay? And what do they need to do? They need to be on time with deliveries. They need to clean the truck, keep their truck in an orderly fashion. and they need to actually show up and do the work, right? That's pretty straightforward, like as in don't call in sick. And then why wouldn't they? Because the types of people that you're bringing in, like alcoholics and scarily, drug addicts and low, people that haven't achieved a hell of a lot in life tend to become, like fall into these types of jobs, right? So how do you manage them? With incentives. So what you do in that instance is you put together a program where, let's say, they show up and they do all the stuff I just said a minute ago for, let's say, 3 to 6 months. Start at 3 and then move towards 6 so that you're not, this isn't happening, you're not doing it, throughout the year too many times because you need your staff around. But what you do is you put together a deal where you are sending them to Vegas, all expenses paid, trip for two to Vegas. Okay. Well, let's say that it's at the, they need to do it for 3 months. Once they get to 2 months and they've only got 4 weeks to go, they are going to show up, for that last month to get the trip to Vegas. Well, now when they win the trip to Vegas, the trip doesn't happen for like 3 months past that, right? Well, you just got to, and they're not going to all of a sudden start calling in sick before their big trip to Vegas. Like, that's not the way it works. And they're very excited to be going, and they've never had a business and never had a boss that cared enough to be able to do something for them, him and his wife, right? Well, you do that. That's an incentive. And now what you do is you get some staff members on board, showing up on time, highly incentivized, thinking you're great. And then an offshoot of this is what happens is these guys are at the bar drinking beer, and then they're talking to their buds, and they're like, you're going to Vegas? Like, how do you afford to go to Vegas, man? Like, what's the deal, dude? Like, you and I have known each other a long time. Like, what's happening? Say, oh, well, my boss is sending me, right? And it's like, your boss is sending you. What's the deal? Explain it. Well, guess what? The guy that you're drinking beer with now is applying for a job within the next 7 days at your business. So all of a sudden what happens is you actually get some really qualified staff as a result. The bottom line of what I'm getting at is that is an example of an incentive to drive people to get what it is that you want, right? So there's 4 things that motivate people on planet Earth: rank, recognition, prizes, money. The end. That's all there is, right? Those 4. That's good news. And all of those are incentives, okay? Rank, recognition, prizes, money. In fact, I was talking to one of my legendary coaches, Wally Carmichael, on the weekend. Does some, high-end stuff, high-end speaking. Got a great podcast himself. Very, very popular. But anyway, so we were talking about one of his clients, and so the example is that you've got a professional. In fact, I spoke to Vince Davis, who's another one of our clients, high-end lawyer. Got, I don't know how many, but 20, 30 lawyers that work for him. And I was explaining this exact example. And I got to tell you guys, the power of what I'm about to say is huge. You want to help your professional clients do this, and it's all based around incentives, by the way. Okay, so 4 things that motivate people: rank, recognition, prizes, money. Well, the problem that businesses have is that they grow, and then the guy who's running it starts to think, damn, I'm working a little bit too hard. I wouldn't mind golfing. And then they end up scaling back, working 3 days a week instead of 5 days a week. And then they want to exit the business, and they're exiting a business that's basically a part-time deal, right? So the trajectory, just picture a bell curve. The guy starts the business at 35, 40's crushing it, 45's really crushing it, hits 50, starts asking some questions about his lifestyle, hits 55 and decides he wants to start golfing and takes Monday and Friday off, right? At the, what did I say? He's at 50, 55, at 60, he wants to sell it. And he's selling a part-time business, and he's going to get next to nothing for it and potentially not even be able to sell it. The solution to this is very simple, and it's the lawyer, it's the doctor's practice, it's the chiropractor for sure, etc. In Vince Davis's case, it's a law office. And again, Wally Carmichael, I was talking to him on the weekend. He's like, oh my God, did that with my client, crushed it. And all they say is, gosh, why didn't I think of that many years ago? So what you do is you're crushing it at 40, you're crushing it at 45. What you need to do is at 45, 50, you need to bring in a 35, 40-year-old version of yourself, okay? You bring them in, and then what you do is you put together a milestone where once they hit X, they basically get a percentage of the company. They don't get 50%, they don't get 40%, they get like 2.55, 10% is high, right? Well, when you own 90% of your business and somebody else owns 10, You still call all the shots. You still have all the decision-making process. The difference is you've just taken a staff member and turned him into a business owner. Okay? And as I say, you don't need to cut the guy a new set of keys so he can get there in the morning. Just buy him a hockey helmet because he's going to open the door with his head because he's so fired up because now he's an entrepreneur. Now he's a business owner of a going concern, something impressive, etc. Well, that guy owns 10% of the company. He starts working the way you used to, right? Between 35, 40, 45, 50, crushing it. And by the way, you do this a second time. Now you've got two people owning 10% of your business. You still own 80. Because when you exit a business, you will sell it to your number one client or your number one staff member with reasonable predictability. Those are the first two people that you go to. Well, if you have two people that both own 10% of the business, 20% in total, there's a good chance that one of them wants to own the whole thing and doesn't want the other one to. Well, now you're in a strong negotiating position, okay? And now you're going to get more for your business because you got two guys that want to buy it. Which one wants to buy it for more? And they start bidding against one another. Or, by the way, maybe they join forces and decide to buy it off of you. Now it's an easier sale. And because they've been there, you can comfortably do something like vendor finance, which just basically means they don't need to go to the bank and get the $3 million if you don't think they're going to get approved. You can basically just do a vendor finance thing where if they miss payments, by the way, you claw back ownership of the business. So like it's a win-win-win scenario. So think of a bell curve, guys. But again, so many professional businesses get going, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55. They want to scale back and they end up selling or basically owning a part-time business and can't sell it for squat. Huge mistake, guys. But that example there is all the biggest X factor is getting these guys that, and by the way, here's the other thing that happens. If you don't offer them a percentage of the business, and I talked to Vince about this last week, I said they leave and become your competition. And he says, oh my God, yeah. So instead of think about the alternative, right? Instead, you got them showing up at 6 o'clock in the morning with hockey helmets, opening the door with their head, or opening up next shop, stealing your database and becoming your competition. Like imagine the difference between the two. I cannot begin to tell you the power of that example. And I don't need to meet your high-end coaching clients to know that they're messing this one up entirely. This is something you want to be thinking about, guys. So anyways, but all incentive driven. Again, and I've gone over that example in the past, but guys, you want to grab it, run with it. The power is impressive. So there you go, Road Dog. But motivating people, incentives, man. The world is run by incentives. Tattoo it on your arm, run with it, really think about it, guys. So you're like at the end of, so I run a webinar, okay? Now, what do I want to do in a webinar or live training? I want you to book an appointment on the calendar, right? Well, I've got a business plan that got me $1 million signed from angel investors for my business coaching company. So if you stay to the end of my webinar, and if you book an appointment on my calendar, I get you that business plan. Okay, you see how all of a sudden the incentive keeps them there to the end? The incentive gets them onto the appointment. And what do you think? Now, if we don't get the appointment, it's like, oh, I think I'll book tomorrow, next week, whatever. Well, they never come back. They completely forget it's game over. When you do a live training, you do a webinar, if they don't book on the spot, just bank on the fact that they're not booking. So why do I say that? What's the relevance? Because you got to use incentives to get them to pull the trigger on the spot. The end. So thinking about that, and again, this is something you massage it, and if you take that on as something, like a guiding principle for yourself, I really think that, you can take what I've just described and take it to all kinds of new heights, both for yourself, frankly, with your family, with your friends, with your life in general, but most definitely with business owners and the dynamics of customers and staff. So there you go, Road Dog.
Beauty. Hey, obviously, as we kind of wrap up here, I'll give you an incentive if you can keep it under 5 minutes. I'll buy you an ice cream cone today. Obviously, we've covered a lot here, right, in terms of traits for successful coaches, mission statements, how to brand yourself, basically. Any final thoughts, like in terms of like what's one thing that somebody could easily do today to just build that momentum, to get that initial bit of progress? Is there anything just top of mind for you as we wrap here that would come to mind for that?
Yes. Okay. It's the old. What does Tony Robbins talk about? Don't try to go for a 10. If you're not a jogger, don't plan to go for a 10-mile jog or a 5-mile jog because it's not happening. He says, put on your shoes and walk around the block. Right. Okay. So how's that relevant for a business coach? In fact, is it Xerox or Can? I think it's Xerox. They did a study back in the day, and they found that their highest performing sale teams had the lowest what do you call it? Like lowest criteria or minimum effort required, right? Like example, one group had to make 3 phone calls, another group had to make 10 phone calls a day, and another group had to make 25 phone calls a day. Well, the group that only had to make 3 phone calls in a day actually outperformed the other 2 groups. And then if you really think about it, it defies logic. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would that work? It's because only having to make 3 calls was so easy. And when you make 3 calls, guess what you do? It's the same way when you put your running shoes on and you walk around the block, you don't stop, right? So when you pick up the phone and you make 3 phone calls, you don't stop either. And you actually find that it feels good, right? So that's a little bit of an acid test right there. It's just wake up every single day. Like when I speak to a business coach and they are not achieving the results that they desire and want, especially if they're getting low end results, I just say to them, I bet you yesterday you didn't make any prospecting calls or efforts. They go, yeah. And I go, by the way, the day before you didn't make any, your lead generation was nil. And the day before, and they're like, yeah. I said, in the last 7 days, you haven't done any prospecting whatsoever. Well, and what they're doing, Road Dog, is I call it they're hiding behind their computer, staring at the phone and experiencing pain, right? So it needs to be, and because that also works, Road Dog, where shit starts to, go sideways. You know what I mean? Like the same way that 3 calls can lead you to make the 10. Well, 0 has a way of pulling a brake so that you just can't get going, much like a car with the handbrake on it just won't go. So my advice to get a little bit of, momentum, just call someone and help them today. Don't wait until tomorrow. Don't make a grand plan. Don't, create your North Star and your bigger picture before you do this. Just pick up the phone and get bloody started. And then get started on what? Helping people. Whether they pay you or not, as a business coach, this is what we do, right? We help people. Well, pick up the phone and help somebody, the end. And then maybe just Road Dog, a little bit of rabbit hole, though. Who? Well, how about just go look at some local advertising, with newspaper, magazine, signs on doors, signs on, like when somebody paints your house, they put a little sign out the front, which they totally should do. That will totally lead to more business. Some people drive by, go, that must be a waste of time. It's absolutely not a waste of time. But anyway, so if you drive by those signs, you see somebody advertising online, on Facebook, Google, on the online directory, well, contact them and say, hey, your ad sucks, dude. Just wanted to let you know, like, you should either turn that off or you got to make a better game plan, right? Like, do that. Why? Because they're spending, let's say, $2,000 a month on these ads that aren't working, right? Well, as a customer, as a community service, phone them and say, I bet your kids would love to go to Disneyland. Turn that ad off because it's never going to work with its current form, right? Because they get the name of the company, service, quality, dependability in the middle, the phone number and email address and web address at the bottom. Like, that's it. And they're wondering why it doesn't work. It's never going to work. So as a community service, that's how you'd help somebody. Just phone them and say, that sucks, never going to work. Here, and if you would like a little bit of a roadmap, like one of the things that we create for our coaches, if you go, like we have a video, it's called Everything is Wrong. And it's essentially showing everybody why marketing generally done is never going to work, right? Well, they watch that video. So when you speak to these guys, you can then drive them to a video, and you don't have ours. Create your own or join forces with us, so we'll give it to you. But at the end of the day, do that. You drive them to the video, and that's how you could help them. That's how you pick up the phone and help somebody today. So that's my advice, Road Dog. Put on your running shoes and walk around the block. Do the same thing with, helping business owners, and do it every day. Consistency. That's it. So that's my parting bit of advice, Road Dog. What do you think, bud?
Beauty. I just actually had to take a couple notes there. The other thing I would say, Karl, is just to wrap, find a business that you're just naturally curious about. Like, find one locally where like, man, I'd love to be able to pull the curtain back and see like, how do they do it? Like, what's that industry like? And I think just having that general sense of curiosity goes such a long way. And by that curiosity, you're naturally excited. They see that excitement, and guess what? They're going to want to work with you, right? So
that's it, brother. Totally. That's it. And if you do it and some people won't, and then you might even feel taken advantage of. But guess what? If you do it every single day, like it's impossible. We talk about getting to six figures, right? Like I named the magazine The Six Figure Coach. Like my magazine, you may or may not know of it, but it's called The Six Figure Coach. Like everybody's like, why didn't you call it The Seven Figure Coach? Because I'm like, business coaches are struggling to get to six figures, right? So there's no point talking to seven figures. I'm talking to like 2% of the market instead of talking to 90% of the market and saying six figures. But if you just pick up the phone and help, let's just say random number here, 3 people every single day for 365 days, take Saturday and Sunday off, by the way, but for the entire year, it is impossible not to make six figures plus. Quite frankly, you'd be moving towards 500 grand and towards, and upwards from there. But that's all you got to do. But frankly, people are in their own way and they don't do it. But it would be impossible not to make multiple six figures if you picked up the phone and helped 3 business owners every single day. Consistency is absolutely key. So
there it is.
There we go.
Beauty. What a way to finish. Again, my friend, the king himself, Karl Bryan. What can I say? All right, buddy. Hey, listen, again, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Another great episode, Business Coaching Secrets. If you want more information on how to build your coaching company, visit focused.com. Again, that's focused.com. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please share it with an existing coach or someone that you think would make a great coach. Again, somebody that loves Tony Robbins or other motivational type people that just is in that space. And of course, we'd appreciate if you could rate us as, iTunes and all these other podcast services, if you will. They all rank us based on their ratings. So if you could please leave us a review if you like what you heard. And until next time, remember, everybody, progress equals happiness.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.